Hello guys, welcome to the Sleepy Theorist, where even the quietest questions are given space to breathe. Tonight, we're not floating through stars or diving into fire. We're staying grounded with roots, because right beneath your feet, something ancient is whispering, something slow, green, and alive. Trees don't speak the way we do, but they do communicate through chemicals, through roots, through a silent language written in scent, in memory, in the way light filters through leaves. This isn't a fairy tale. It's science, so subtle. Most of us never hear it. But tonight, you will. We'll drift into the forest floor. We'll follow signals passed from root to root. We'll feel the pulse of a network older than words. And as we move through this stillness, the world above, you might fade, but the world below, it will begin to hum. So if your breath slows as we go, let it in. If your thoughts begin to leaf out in the dark, I'll be right here. If this story brings you rest, let it leave behind a gentle like, a quiet subscribe, and tell me what kind of trees watch over your night, and what hour do they whisper to you. Share your moment with me. Where in the world are you watching the stillness begin? Now, let's drift gently into a world where the earth forgets how to move. The tree stands in front of you, tall, still, and unmoving. Its branches do not sway. The leaves are quiet. The bark, dry and lined with time, shows no expression. But something within it is alive in ways you can't hear, in patterns too slow for sight. You place your hand against the trunk and feel only roughness. But deep inside, far beyond your skin's reach, a current is moving. A river, not of water, but of memory. This is where the language begins, not in noise, not in voice, but in flow. Inside every tree, sap moves, slowly, reluctantly, yet always forward. This sap is not just moisture or sugar, it is a messenger. It carries what the tree has felt in the sunlit tips of its leaves and delivers it down to the hidden depths of its roots. It carries what the roots have found in the darkness below and brings it back up to the open sky. The sap travels in vessels, thin as a thread, narrow as a breath, stretched through the wood like silent roads. Along these roads, the tree speaks to itself. But the tree is not just speaking, it is remembering. Each year, it grows another ring around its center, and each ring holds a chapter of its past. A wide ring tells of rain and softness, a thin one of drought. A distorted ring might recall a wound, or a fire, or a long year of illness. The tree does not forget. Its body is its history, and the bark is just a skin stretched over a story written in silence. You cannot hear it, but the tree can. It listens to changes in temperature, to light, to moisture. It translates these into chemicals, into movement. Even without a brain, it gathers information and stores it. The bark is not a boundary, it is a threshold. Beneath it, vessels react. To sunlight, water tension pulls upward from the ground. Leaves above might sense too much heat, and in response, the lower trunk may tighten its flow. The tree adjusts, quietly, completely, without panic. It speaks in changes, not in noise. There is no heartbeat, but there is a rhythm. A slow rise of sap when the morning sun returns. A gentle fall at night. This rise and fall is like breathing, but with the world instead of lungs. The sap takes what the leaves have made, the sugars spun from sunlight, and moves them down. This process is called translocation, but in simpler terms, it's a delivery, a message, a sharing of energy. The leaves feed the rest of the body. They do not hoard. Beneath the bark, this movement happens without end. Even in winter, when the leaves fall and the air sharpens, something moves. Slowly, not for growth, but for survival. A tree that senses the cold does not cry. It thickens its sap, changes its chemistry. It prepares for sleep. The bark may crack, the wood may tighten, but beneath that, something waits, not dead, just paused. You imagine the tree's life as still, but that is your speed, not its. The tree lives in long time. It does not measure in minutes, but in seasons. It knows the soil over decades. It knows the weather not as today's forecast, but as a pattern that stretches years back and forward again. Beneath the bark, this awareness is not held in thought, it is held in movement, in chemistry, in the layers of its growing core. You may think communication requires sound. The tree would disagree if it could. For it, communication is change. A leaf wilting is a message. A root pulling back is a reply. A drop in sap pressure is an alarm. The whole body is fluent in this silent language, and nothing needs to be fast. Speed, for a tree, would be chaos. It would be fire. It prefers slowness. Stillness is safety. The bark is the guardian. On the outside, it seems simple, just a shell, perhaps even lifeless. But beneath it, a network thrives. Cambium cells, thin and busy, divide and push outward. They build new wood. They build more bark. They keep the tree growing, ring by ring. Cambium is one of the most important layers. It's the generative edge. And like all things vital, it hides just below the surface, in some trees. The inner bark carries not just nutrients, but medicine. Chemicals to fight off fungi, or insects, or invaders. These defenses are silent, no scream, no struggle, just a slow increase in certain compounds, tannins, resins, oils. If the tree is wounded, it does not bleed in panic. It bleeds sap that seals, that hardens, that protects. Its silence is not weakness. It is choice. Touch the bark again, and think not of dead wood, but of a skin that listens, a border that breathes. Beneath it, cells divide, liquid moves, signals, travel, and memory thickens. Some trees can live for hundreds of years. In that time, they gather storms, sunlight, pain, and peace. All of it within the stillness. All of it beneath the bark. The next time you walk through a forest, pause. Pick one tree, stand close. You won't hear it speak. But if you wait long enough and quiet your own rhythms, you might feel it. Not as sound, not as thought, but as presence. The bark presses outward, not just with growth, but with everything the tree carries. Light, water, loss, renewal. Its language is not meant to impress. It is meant to endure. Somewhere inside this tree, sap is moving right now. Even as you sleep, it flows. Even as you drift into dreams, the tree is whispering softly within itself. Not for your ears, but for its own survival. And in that there is comfort. That something so still is also so alive. That silence can carry such meaning. That words are not the only way to say, I am here. You stand in a clearing and look down at your feet. Beneath the soil, beyond the reach of your eyes, the forest is still speaking. But this time, the voice does not rise upward into leaves or float on air. It travels downward, through silence, into a vast network of tendrils that stretch and branch like questions looking for answers. Roots do not see. They do not taste in the way your tongue does. But they know, they feel, they listen. And their language is ancient, subtle, and constant. Every tree begins with a single downward gesture. A root searching into darkness. It does not hesitate. It does not wait for light. It moves because it must. That root grows by dividing, by sensing pressure, warmth, water, and the presence of other things. Not just rocks and minerals, but neighbors, fungi, insects, the decay of old things, the memory of rain. Even in its earliest form, a root is already paying attention. Roots are not just anchors, they are sensory organs. The tip of each root is wrapped in cells that detect touch, gravity, and moisture. They know when the soil is too dry, when a rock blocks the way, or when another root has claimed the space. They adjust, they twist, curl, redirect. They do not complain. They simply continue, and in their patience, they build a map of everything they meet. Some roots reach outward to compete. Others pull back. Some slow their growth if a neighbor is too close. Others send out chemical signals warning nearby plants to stay away. In this quiet war, no sound is made, but every move is strategic. Trees do not fight with force, they defend. With distance, they learn the shape of their environment through chemical traces. They listen for what cannot be seen. There are roots that grow quickly and feed greedily, and roots that grow slowly, careful not to take too much. Shallow roots catch surface water from the rain. Deep roots draw from the hidden reservoirs of old moisture stored far below. Between them, a tree builds balance. It knows when to drink and when to wait. These decisions are not made with thought, but with chemistry. A dry patch of soil slows root growth. A damp one invites new cells to divide. Over time, a single tree may grow roots that stretch out farther than its tallest branches ever could. But the forest does not stop at one tree. Beneath the soil, roots touch. They intertwine. They brush past each other. In some species, they fuse. Information passes between them, not in words, but in signals. A tree under attack from pests may release a warning through its roots. A nearby tree may respond by thickening its bark or altering its chemistry before the pests even arrive. This is a language of presence, of proximity, of shared alertness. Nothing is spoken, yet everything is heard. Roots also listen to the fungi. Microscopic filaments of fungal networks stretch through the ground in all directions, forming threads called hyphae. These threads attach to the roots and act as bridges, carrying nutrients and messages across long distances. In return for sugars, the fungi bring minerals, water, and warnings. This partnership, older than flowers, is quiet and invisible, but it shapes the life of every tree that grows in a forest. Scientists call it mycorrhizal symbiosis. Trees might call it survival. This network, this silent web of connection, has been called the Wood Wide Web. But it is not digital. It does not operate in seconds. It lives in weeks, seasons, years, and yet it works. Trees use it to identify their kin, to favor their own offspring, to limit growth of rivals. Even when roots do not touch, they send molecules through the soil acids, hormones, scents, and enzymes that inform and instruct. The soil is not just dirt. It is language waiting to be read. In dry times, roots shrink back. In floods, they expand into air pockets. If oxygen is low, some roots grow upward. If salt is high, others shut down. These are not panicked reactions. They are learned patterns, passed through genetics, reinforced by experience. A tree that has survived a drought will grow roots differently than one that never knew thirst. It remembers, not with a brain, but with behavior. And that behavior shapes the next season, and the next. Roots also form habits. If a tree finds a reliable water source, it will continue sending roots in that direction even after the water dries up. It will test again and again, waiting for return. Some roots grow toward music or vibration. Experiments have shown that root tips can detect frequencies in the soil, the subtle hum of insects, the motion of water, the crackle of growing seeds. Roots grow more quickly in the direction of these sounds. They are drawn toward life. They reach for the possibility of connection, and in this reaching, they do not forget themselves. A tree will avoid its own roots. It will not tangle with itself. It keeps track, quietly, of who it is. This self-awareness, though simple, is profound. In a forest, every tree is in conversation with others, but it never loses its own identity. It recognizes what is foreign and what is familiar. This recognition shapes how it grows, what it shares, and when it holds back, the soil holds echoes of everything that has come before. Old roots decay, leaving behind pathways that the new roots follow. Chemical traces from fallen leaves feed back into the roots of the next generation. In this way, memory is not just held in the tree, but in the ground around it. The earth becomes a book that roots read slowly, one cell at a time. They learn where it is safe, where it is dangerous, where it is home. You walk through the forest and feel only firmness underfoot. But if you could shrink yourself small enough, you would see an entire world shifting just beneath the surface. Hair-thin roots curling round pebbles, fungal threads weaving through dead leaves, moisture clinging to root hairs, signals traveling cell to cell in silence. A forest beneath the forest, alive with response and meaning. This is not noise. It is not a voice. It is something slower and older. It is a presence that adjusts, waits, remembers. You do not need to speak to be heard. You do not need to move to be aware. The roots know, they have always known. Their patience is their wisdom. Their silence is their strength. As you prepare to sleep, imagine the ground below you, not empty, but filled with listening, with threads and roots and memory. You lie above a network that never stops sensing. The trees do not close their ears. When the sun goes down, they continue to listen. And in that listening, they continue to live. The forest speaks downward now, not to the sky, but to itself. Through every root, every strand of fungus, every drop of moisture, it speaks in hunger, in sharing, in warning. And somewhere, beneath your feet, a root pauses, listens, and answers. Somewhere deep inside the tree, a movement begins. It is not fast, it is not loud, but it is constant. It moves without breath, without thought, and without pause. It begins at the roots, or sometimes at the leaves, depending on what the tree needs. It travels through narrow vessels carved into the wood, spiraling upward or downward in a system designed for endurance. This movement is sap, and sap is the silent blood of the tree. You cannot see it, but it is always there, flowing, pausing, changing direction. It carries more than water. It carries memory, chemistry, intention. The sap contains sugars made in the leaves, hormones released in the roots, minerals drawn from the soil, and signals passed from cell to cell. It is not a river. It is more like a current in a closed world, spiraling through channels the size of whispers. But it is enough to feed the tree, enough to speak. When sunlight touches the leaves, photosynthesis begins. Carbon dioxide from the air enters through small pores, and light breaks it apart. The energy is stored as sugar. The sugar is mixed with water, and together they form a message. This message is loaded into phloem cells, the transport vessels for downward flow. Gravity does not move it. Pressure does. Each leaf becomes a small factory and a soft pump, pressing sugars into the tree's veins. As the sugar-rich sap moves downward, it passes through every branch, every bend, every joint. Along the way, it feeds the living cells that surround the vessels. These cells are few, but important. Most of the tree is dead wood, long solidified and dry. But near the surface, a narrow layer called the cambium remains alive. This is where growth happens, where new wood is made, where old damage is repaired. Sap flows here slowly, nourishing each cell, giving it the power to divide. At the same time, water travels upward through a different vessel system, the xylem. This upward flow is even more mysterious. It works against gravity, without any pump. The tree pulls water from the soil using the tension created by evaporation in the leaves. As each droplet of water exits a leaf into the air, it pulls the column behind it upward by a tiny fraction. This chain of tension, built from molecules clinging together, stretches from root to leaf like a rope made of fluid. This process is called transpiration. But it is more than a function. It is a rhythm. When the air is dry, the tree pulls more water. When it rains, the process slows. When the sun rises, the rhythm begins again. The tree does not think, but it adjusts. If one leaf is damaged, others increase their pull. If the soil is dry, the tension builds more slowly. The flow changes with the weather, the hour, the season. It is like a breath that never leaves the trunk. Sap carries hormones that tell the tree where to grow. Auxins, for example, help the tree decide which branches to lengthen and which ones to let go. These chemical signals are precise. A tilt in sunlight may cause more auxins to flow down one side of a branch, causing cells there to elongate. The branch bends gently toward the light. Nothing speaks, nothing moves quickly, but the message is heard. Other hormones carry messages of stress. If the tree is wounded, certain compounds begin to flow more quickly. They signal the need for thicker bark, for healing resins, for cellular defense. If insects chew on a leaf, the damage triggers a cascade of reactions. The sap may thicken, toxins may form. Nearby leaves may begin preemptive defense. The flow is not just nourishment. It is preparation, it is response. In spring, sap rushes upward more quickly. The tree wakes from its slow winter rhythm and prepares to bloom. Stored sugars from the roots begin to rise, fueling new buds, new leaves, new chances. In some trees, the sap flows with such force that it can be tapped. Maple trees, for example, send sugary sap upward in pulses. It can be tasted, collected, turned into syrup. But for the tree, it is not sweetness. It is survival. In winter, the sap slows. In some places, it almost stops. The tree thickens the fluid with sugars to prevent freezing. This antifreeze helps protect the delicate cells from bursting in the cold. If the sap freezes anyway, it can cause cracks in the bark or even death in smaller branches. The tree knows this and prepares. Without ever seeing a forecast, it senses the cold and makes its choices in advance. Sap is also memory. A tree that has experienced drought will alter its sap flow in the future. It may produce different ratios of sugar or adjust its internal pressure to conserve water. These changes are not conscious, but they remain. They shape how the tree grows, how it prepares for the next dry season. Even without nerves, the tree remembers through repetition, through chemical record, through subtle shift. You might think of sap as simple as sticky fluid or tree blood. But it is more accurate to think of it as a circulatory language. Each drop carries information. Each pulse delivers meaning. The tree reads these messages with its whole body. Unlike human systems that rely on a central brain, the tree is fully distributed. Each part listens. Each part responds. The sap is the voice, but the hearing is everywhere. There are times when sap can reverse its direction. In some desert trees, water and nutrients are pulled back into the trunk during extreme heat, conserving resources. In others, sap may pool. In certain limbs, and abandon others to die. The tree sacrifices its outer edges to save its core. These choices are not cruel. They are calculated. The sap becomes a messenger of triage, of survival strategy. The tree does not ask for pity. It simply decides. In the tropics, some trees send pulses of sap timed to rainfall. They grow in bursts, then rest. The rhythm is synced to moisture, not to temperature. In other climates, trees use day length to regulate flow. The sap responds to hours of light, not to what the sky feels like. This adaptation helps the tree prepare before frost arrives or summer intensifies. The sap is not a weather report. It is the calendar inside the trunk. As you sit beside a tree, you cannot feel this movement. You cannot hear it. But if you could, become small enough, still enough, you might sense the tension in every vessel. The pull from leaf to root, the steady pressure adjusting with every breath of wind, every cloud crossing the sun. The tree is never truly at rest. Even in silence, its blood flows. Even in stillness, its chemistry shifts. Sap connects every part of the tree, from the deepest root to the highest leaf, from the youngest bud to the oldest limb. It carries life, yes, but it also carries choice. Where to grow, what to protect, when to pause. This is the language of presence, of subtlety. It does not rely on words. It relies on rhythm as you drift into sleep. Imagine the sap inside the tree beside you, rising with light, falling with shadow, moving not to be seen, but to be felt. You do not need to understand its chemistry to feel its calm. It is enough to know that even when everything seems still, something essential is always moving. Something slow, something sacred, something alive. Beneath the forest floor, in the darkness that roots call home, there is another world. Not made of wood or leaf or bark, but of threads so thin they slip between soil grains unnoticed. These threads do not grow from the tree, yet they are part of it. They belong to the fungi, ancient and unseen. And in the quiet partnership between fungus and root, something extraordinary happens. A whisper begins, one that will never rise into air, but will echo through the living earth in every direction. This is not a metaphor. The fungi truly speak, not with voices, but with signals and chemistry and touch. Their threads are called hyphae, and when they gather, they form networks that stretch across meters, even kilometers. When these threads meet a tree's roots, they do not attack, they connect. They wrap around or enter the root cells, and in doing so, they form a partnership. This partnership is called myc. It is one of the oldest, most successful alliances in the history of life on land. The fungus receives sugar from the tree. Sugar made high above in the sunlight, passed down through the tree's veins. In return, the fungus offers minerals, water, and a connection to the larger network. This trade is precise. The fungus does not simply feed the tree. It knows what the tree lacks and where to find it. Phosphorus, nitrogen, even trace elements like zinc and copper. The fungus becomes the tree's extended hand in the soil, reaching far beyond the limits of the root system. But minerals are only part of the story. The real wonder is communication. Through this fungal network, trees can send signals to each other. A tree under attack by pests may release chemicals into its roots. The fungus carries those chemicals to other trees. These neighbors begin to prepare. They may strengthen their bark. They may alter their leaf chemistry. They respond to a danger that has not yet reached them, simply because the message traveled underground. The fungi do not favor one tree over another. They link young trees to old. They connect species that share no canopy. They create bridges between individuals, making the forest act not as a collection of separate trees, but as a single, interconnected organism. Some scientists call it the wood wide web, but it is not made of fiber or wire. It is made of life, of quiet agreements, of ancient memory. In this network, older trees often support the younger ones. A mother tree, rooted deep and tall, may send carbon to a shaded sapling through the fungal threads. The young tree, too small to photosynthesize enough for itself, receives food from a tree it cannot even see. No eyes meet, no thanks are given, but the support continues, sometimes for years. The older tree listens to the needs of the forest and responds in slow, chemical kindness. Not all communication is peaceful. Some trees release toxins through their roots, and the fungi carry those toxins to nearby rivals. Growth slows, leaves drop. This is not war, but it is competition. The forest is not always gentle, but even in this struggle, the rules are quiet. No tree shouts, no fungus chooses sides. The system moves according to need, balance, survival. The mycorrhizal network also carries memory. If a tree survives drought, it may release signals into the soil that alter the fungus. The fungus, now changed, connects to other trees and passes that information along. The next drought comes, and those trees respond more quickly. Not because they remember, but because the network remembers for them. This is not instinct. It is inherited awareness. The fungi benefit too. They cannot make their own food. Without trees or plants, they would starve. So they protect their partners. Some fungal threads emit chemicals that ward off pathogens. Others create physical barriers against invading microbes. They form biofilms around roots, shielding them from harm. The tree does not ask for this. The fungus does not charge for it. It simply happens again and again in forests across the planet. If you could shrink yourself down and move through this network, you would see more than just threads. You would see crossroads where signals gather. You would see branching paths where sugars flow one way and minerals the other. You would see gaps where communication slows and thick knots where it accelerates. This is not chaos. It is design, shaped by millions of years. It works because it grew slowly, without ego, without command. Some fungi connect many trees. Others specialize, linking to only one kind of plant. These specialists form close, loyal bonds. They live and die with their host. If the tree is cut down, the fungus may wither. If the fungus disappears, the tree may struggle to survive. They are not dependent in weakness. They are interdependent in strength. In meadows and forests where the soil is disturbed, these fungal networks often vanish. The silence that follows is not just empty, it is broken. Trees that once spoke to each other through roots now stand alone. Signals do not travel. Nutrients are harder to find. Seedlings fail to thrive. It takes time to regrow the network, to re-establish the old whispers. But it can happen, slowly, if the soil is left alone. In healthy forests, the mycorrhizal network is never truly still. At night, when photosynthesis stops, the sugar flow slows, but the communication continues. Damage done during the day is discussed. In the dark, adjustments are made. Defenses are raised. Messages ripple outward like echoes in stone. The trees may sleep, but the network does not. You sit beneath a tree and feel nothing. But just below you, this web of life stretches in every direction. The roots of the tree beside you may be connected to another 100 feet away. They may be sharing information at this very moment. The tree's experience becomes part of a larger understanding. The forest becomes aware of itself. The mycorrhizal whisper is not a sound. It is a pulse of chemistry, a thread of memory. A response passed from one being to another. No language, no alphabet, no sentence, but meaning all the same. Meaning that shapes growth, that offers warning, that builds trust. When you walk through the forest, you are walking across this whisper. Every step lands on a message you cannot hear. Every route you pass may be part of a story still unfolding beneath you. The air tells you nothing. The soil is full of secrets. This is how trees listen to each other. This is how they know when danger is near or help is needed. This is how they decide when to give and when to hold back. It is not speech, but it is language. It is not fast, but it is complete. As you close your eyes, imagine the roots beneath. You glowing with soft light. Imagine threads stretching from one tree to another, from one idea to the next. Imagine a forest not of separate trees, but of one vast, quiet conversation. It never ends. It never needs to be loud. It is always there, whispering, beneath you, around you, forever. You look up and see leaves fluttering gently in the light. They seem so simple, like soft hands held open to the sky. But each one is a living sensor, a quiet translator, a code reader that understands light not as brightness but as instruction. The leaf does not just absorb light, it interprets it. It reads its color, its angle, its rhythm. From this reading, the tree makes its next decision: when to grow, when to rest, when to prepare for something still far away. This is the secret code of sunlight, and a leaf is its page. The leaf is not a single structure, it is a layered map of function. Its outer skin, the epidermis, lets in light while protecting from water loss. Beneath that is the palisade layer, where cells are tightly packed with chloroplasts. These chloroplasts are the true readers of light. They are green because they reflect green and absorb other wavelengths, mostly red and blue. Inside these tiny compartments, photons from the sun are caught and used to split water molecules. This is where photosynthesis begins. Photosynthesis is more than a reaction. It is the conversion of sunlight into life. It takes water from the roots and carbon dioxide from the air and combines them into sugars. These sugars become the food that feeds every part of the tree. But the process is not constant. It speeds up or slows down depending on how much light the leaf receives. It changes as clouds pass or as branches cast shadows. The leaf listens carefully to every shift in the light and responds silently. The way a leaf receives light changes everything. If the light is strong, the leaf may close some of its pores to prevent water loss. If the light is dim, it may open more widely to gather every last photon. These pores, called stomata, are like tiny mouths spread across the surface. They open and close throughout the day, managing the balance between breathing and thirst. The leaf does not guess. It calculates, moment by moment, what it needs most. But light is not just energy, it is also a message. The angle of the sun tells the leaf what time of day it is. The quality of light changes with the season. In autumn, the lower sun sends more red light. The leaf senses this and begins to prepare. Chlorophyll breaks down. The green fades. Other pigments rise orange, yellow, red. This is not simply a change in color. It is a change in strategy. The tree is listening to light and writing a new response. Leaves are sensitive to even small differences in their environment. One side of a branch may receive more sunlight and grow larger leaves. Another may be shaded and produce smaller, darker leaves that are better at absorbing the little light they get. In dense forests, trees stretch their leaves higher, trying to catch stray beams through the canopy. Some leaves grow flat and wide to catch light. Others are narrow and curled to reduce loss. Each leaf is shaped by the light it expects to find. Within the chloroplasts, reactions happen in two parts. The light-dependent reactions use sunlight directly to split water and create energy molecules. The light-independent reactions use that energy to fix carbon and make sugar. These steps are carefully balanced. If there is too much light, the leaf may be damaged. If there is too little, the tree may starve. The leaf does not panic. It adjusts, always. Quietly, each leaf also helps regulate the tree's internal temperature. As sunlight warms its surface, water evaporates from the stomata, cooling the leaf the way sweat cools your skin. This cooling also pulls more water upward from the roots, feeding the entire system. If the air is dry, the leaf tightens. If it rains, it relaxes. It does not need eyes to know the weather. It feels everything through the rhythm of light and moisture. Some trees move their leaves during the day. They track the sun, turning slowly to maximize light capture. Others fold at night, protecting themselves from cold or wind. This movement is subtle but precise. It is controlled by changes in pressure within leaf cells, triggered by shifts in light and internal chemistry. These motions are not thoughts. They are responses to a world that never stops changing. Leaves also send signals to each other. If one is damaged, it can release airborne chemicals that alert its neighbors. These chemicals drift through the air, carried by wind, touching nearby leaves. The message is simple: prepare, strengthen, defend. The light that reaches the leaves may be the same, but the response has now changed. The tree has learned something, and it shares that knowledge leaf by leaf. There are even patterns within the shadows that leaves cast on each other. These patterns can signal the tree to adjust its leaf layout, changing angles to reduce overlap and improve light use. Some trees can sense the quality of reflected light, the ratio of red to far red, which tells them whether they are shaded by other plants. This information triggers changes in growth. The tree might grow taller or redirect its branches. Light becomes not just a resource, but a map in the canopy. The highest leaves often receive the most sunlight and send the most energy downward, but the lower leaves do not rest. They continue to gather scattered light, contributing in quieter ways. Some leaves even reflect light downward, helping lower layers survive. This cooperation between leaves ensures the entire tree receives enough to live. It is not a competition. It is a distribution, a sharing of purpose. The sugars produced by the leaves do not stay there. They are loaded into transport cells and sent downward into the branches, the trunk, the roots. This movement is driven by pressure, a slow flow controlled by the leaf's decision to send or to store. In spring, the leaves push energy to growing buds. In summer, they feed the roots. In autumn, they slow the flow, signaling the tree to rest. The leaf speaks to the rest of the body, not with words, but with sweetness. If the tree loses too many leaves, its voice becomes weaker. It cannot feed itself. It cannot send the same messages. Some trees respond by regrowing leaves quickly. Others pause and wait for better conditions. The tree listens to its own weakness and adjusts. In time, with patience, it recovers. The leaves return. The light returns. The code is readable once more. You hold a leaf in your hand. It is thin, quiet, green, but inside it, molecules are moving. Photons are being caught. Electrons are leaping from atom to atom. Sugars are forming. Pressure is building. And all of it is in response to something as soft and constant as sunlight. The leaf is not just alive, it is aware. As night falls, the light fades and the leaf slows. The pores close, the sugars pause. The conversation between tree and sky goes quiet. But even in darkness, the leaf waits. It remembers the pattern of the day. It knows the light will return. It prepares to begin again. You lie beneath the branches and close your eyes. Above you, leaves rest in gentle stillness. They do not speak, but they have told the tree all it needs to know about light, about shadow, about time. In the morning, they will open again, and the tree will listen once more. In the silence of the forest, there is a memory older than wind. It is not written in ash or in song. It is written in the rings of the trees, in the charred skin beneath bark, in the shape of seeds that will not open until touched by flame. Fire is not only destruction. In the life of trees, fire is a message. It is an event that alters growth, that changes future patterns, that leaves a signature in the wood. When trees remember fire, they do not look back in fear. They adjust, they endure. Fire does not always arrive as a storm. Sometimes it is quiet at first, a spark in dry grass, a whisper carried by wind. It moves low, tasting leaves and twigs, testing the forest's boundaries. Other times it arrives as a wave, fast and consuming, roaring through the underbrush and up into the crowns. The trees cannot run, they cannot hide, but they can prepare, they can remember. Some trees have thick bark that resists heat. Others shed their lower branches to keep fire from climbing. A few store water deep in their trunks. In pine forests, resin fills the bark, and when fire comes, it burns hot but brief. These trees survive by expecting fire. They do not deny it. They build themselves to face it. The memory of fire begins in the tree rings. Each year, a tree adds a new layer of wood just beneath its bark. If fire passes through, it leaves a scar. In that ring, the tree does not die. It seals the wound and continues. Over time, it creates new wood over the damage. The scar becomes hidden, but not lost. Scientists can read these scars, counting them like lines in a journal. Each mark tells of a summer long ago, of a fire that came and went, of a tree that stood through it. Some trees need fire to complete their lives. In certain pines, cones remain sealed until exposed to extreme heat. The fire melts the resin, and only then do the seeds fall to the ground. Without fire, they would never grow. In grasslands and savannas, trees rely on fire to clear space, to return nutrients to the soil, to remove fast-growing plants that might block the sun. Fire becomes a tool, not an enemy. And trees that know fire learn to work with it. The soil itself remembers. After a fire, minerals are released into the ground. Charcoal settles into the earth, changing its chemistry. Some fungi thrive in these conditions, forming new partnerships with trees. The seeds that fall after fire land not on bare ground, but on a surface made rich by the very flames that cleared it. New roots find their way into this softened, blackened earth and begin again. In tropical forests, fire is rare but devastating. The trees there are not built for flame. Their bark is thin, their branches hold moisture. When fire does come, it can cause long-lasting damage, but even here, the forest tries to adapt. It grows back in stages. First come the grasses, then the shrubs, and finally the taller trees. Each stage prepares the ground for the next healing. The wounds one layer at a time. In dry forests, fire comes often, and the trees expect it. Some drop their lower limbs. Some create fire breaks by growing apart. Others grow quickly after being burned, sending up shoots from their roots or from buds hidden deep in the trunk. These rest sprouts are not new trees. They are memories come alive. The same root, the same body, trying again. You walk through a forest, years after fire, and do not see flames, but you see the memory. You see blackened bark, twisted branches. young trees growing in straight lines where the canopy once broke. The forest is quieter, open, full of light. In time it will thicken again, but for now it breathes differently. The fire has changed its shape. Some trees share their knowledge. A burned tree may release chemicals into the soil, triggering nearby seeds to germinate. It may alter the chemistry of its leaves to make them less flammable in future seasons. The forest responds as a whole, not just as individuals. Fire teaches, and the trees listen. There is rhythm in fire, just as there is in rain or sun. In some places, fire comes every few years. In others, every few decades. The trees count time in fire scars. They grow slower after a burn. They widen. When the canopy returns, their rings become a record, a form of language written in heat and response. In some traditions, humans understood this. They used fire carefully, clearing brush, encouraging new growth, guiding the forest rather than controlling it. These low fires were gentle, sweeping through grasses and underbrush, sparing the larger trees. The forest adapted to this rhythm. It grew in conversation with flame. But when fire is suppressed for too long, it builds in secret. Debris piles up. Heat intensifies. And when fire finally returns, it is not gentle. It is not part of the pattern. It becomes disaster. Still, the trees try. Even after the worst fires, green shoots appear. Buds break through black bark. Seeds awaken in ash. The forest is not defeated. It is changed. It begins again, carrying the memory forward. You place your hand on the trunk of a tree that survived fire. The bark is thick, darkened, ridged. Beneath your palm, the tree still stands. Inside, sap still flows. Roots still reach. Leaves still rise to the light. The fire is gone, but its lesson remains. This tree will grow differently now. Its cells remember heat. Its rings hold the shape of flame. Even trees that die in fire become part of the memory. Their trunks fall and rot. Their nutrients return to the soil. Their space becomes the clearing. Where light reaches the ground, new life begins here, not in denial of fire, but because of it. The forest does not forget its burned ones. It grows from them. When you sleep in a forest touched by fire, the air is cooler, the sky more open. The sounds echo a little farther. But beneath the silence, there is a hum of life returning. The forest is not afraid. It is learning, always. It adjusts. It carries the past not as weight, but as wisdom. As you drift toward rest, imagine the trees not as still victims, but as living record keepers. Each scar a sentence, each sprout a reply, each ring a quiet note in a song shaped by heat and time. Fire does not end the story. It changes the tone. The forest listens. It remembers. And in remembering, it becomes strong. You walk through the forest and feel the earth firm beneath your feet. It seems solid and quiet, but beneath the surface lies a world far more intricate than anything you see above. There is a network underfoot, a living system so vast and ancient that it stretches beyond the roots of any one tree. It connects not just trees to soil, but trees to each other. It is not made of wood or leaf, but of fine threads, chemical trails, and pulses of communication that move through darkness without sound. This network begins with roots, but it does not end there. Every root is more than a feeder. It is a bridge. It reaches through the soil not just for water and nutrients, but for contact. Some roots grow toward others. Some avoid conflict. Some send out small tendrils that wrap gently around stones or curl into air pockets left by worms. The soil is not just dirt. It is memory, texture, history. Every grain carries traces of what once lived, what is decaying, what is about to begin. Surrounding these roots is a world of fungi, bacteria, and unseen threads that stretch in every direction. These fungal strands are so small that dozens could fit within a single hair's width. But together, they form a mesh that binds the soil and allows the trees to speak. This is the mycorrhizal network, a web that links tree to tree, root to root, forest to forest. It is not controlled by a single being. It grows freely, responding to opportunity and need. The fungi do more than carry nutrients. They transmit information. A tree under stress may send signals through the network, asking for support. Nearby trees may respond by sending sugars, adjusting growth, or preparing for the same threat. The message moves not with speed, but with purpose. It flows through chemistry, through shifts in water pressure, through the balance of molecules, passed from one cell to the next. This network is alive with negotiation. A tree may share with its kin, but hold back from strangers. Young saplings in deep shade may receive carbon from older trees. In return, they strengthen the network that supports them both. It is not generosity. It is survival. What one tree learns or suffers, another can prepare for. This shared awareness is not thought, but reaction. It is not emotion, but adjustment. The soil is full of signals. Roots release acids to unlock minerals. Bacteria respond by fixing nitrogen, changing its form so trees can absorb it. Some microbes form partnerships with roots, others attack. The tree responds to both. It produces chemicals that attract helpers and repel invaders. These chemicals move outward into the soil, shaping the microbial community around the root zone. This zone is called the rhizosphere, and it is as dynamic as any ecosystem above ground. In forests where the soil is healthy, this network thrives. Trees grow not just taller, but stronger. They resist disease more easily. They survive drought more gracefully. The roots are not alone. They are in conversation with the soil, with the fungi, with the memory of everything that has come before. Each tree becomes more than an individual. It becomes part of a system that knows how to adjust, how to protect, how to wait. But the network is fragile too. If the soil is compacted, the threads break. If the forest is cleared, the connections die. The roots become isolated. They can no longer reach each other. The support vanishes. Regrowth becomes harder. Seedlings fail. The forest may return, but it will take time. The network must be rebuilt before the community can truly live again. Some trees grow slowly because they invest more in the network. They send out extra roots. They build partnerships with more fungal species. Others grow fast and shallow, taking from the soil but giving little back. The network remembers this. It adjusts. Some fungi may favor certain trees. Others may shift away. Over time, a balance emerges. Not equality, but understanding. Not fairness, but function. In some places, scientists have mapped this network. They have traced the connections between trees, following the flow of carbon, nitrogen, and signaling molecules. What they found is surprising. Older trees, the large ones with deep roots and wide canopies, often act as central nodes. They connect to many others. They send more than they receive. When these trees are lost, the network suffers. The young trees grow more slowly. The forest loses part of its memory. This memory lives not just in the roots, but in the soil itself. Soil holds the remnants of old roots, the echoes of past seasons. It remembers droughts, floods, fires. It changes its texture, its chemistry, its microbial life in response. The next generation of trees grows in this altered memory. They do not begin from zero, they begin from context. The soil gives them history. When animals move through the forest, they disturb this network. Their feet compress the soil, their waste adds nutrients. Their digging reshapes the root paths. But most forests have adapted to this movement. The network adjusts, regrows, heals. What it cannot always withstand is the weight of machines, the clearing of land, the burning of what binds it all. In these cases, the loss is deep, not just of trees, but of connection, not just of life, but of the language that holds life together. Yet, even after disturbance, the network begins again. A fallen leaf becomes food for microbes. A rotting stump feeds fungi. New threads emerge. New roots reach outward. The system reforms, not as it was, but as it can be. The forest does not remember in words. It remembers in texture, in relationships. In renewal, when you walk through the woods, you may feel only the surface, but beneath your steps, a conversation continues. It flows not in sound, but in chemistry. It changes shape with every season. It carries information older than the path you walk. The network beneath you holds the forest together. It is not seen. It is not praised. But without it, the forest cannot exist. You sit beneath a tree and think of roots as anchors, but they are also listeners. They are also messengers. They do not just pull in water. They speak through it. They do not just seek food. They offer it. Every moment, they are adjusting to the world beneath them. A world that is rich, crowded, and alive, even. In winter, when the branches are bare and the leaves have fallen, the network below remains active. The roots still move. The fungi still reach. The message is slow, but they do not stop. The forest sleeps, but the conversation does not. Beneath the frozen ground, something still stirs. Something still connects. You close your eyes and rest on the forest floor. The soil cradles you. It has cradled roots, seeds, rain, decay. It holds the memories of trees long gone, and the blueprints of those yet to come. Beneath you, the network listens. It stretches far and wide, old and young, silent and strong. You may not hear it, but you are resting on the threads of a story still being told. The bark of a tree may look like armor, but it is also a canvas. With each passing year, it gathers lines, cracks, and marks. Some are smooth, like time passing gently. Others are deep, twisted, and dark. These are the scars. The tree does not erase them. It carries them, layer by layer, into its core. Beneath each scar is a story not told in sound, but in the slow formation of tissue. This is a language written in damage and recovery, in pressure and healing, in growth that curves around the memory of pain. A scar on a tree does not scream. It does not demand attention, but it changes everything. The cells around the wound reorganize. New tissue forms, not in symmetry, but in reaction. The cambium, the living layer beneath the bark, sends out new growth in careful directions. It does not grow straight. It curves, thickens, reroots. It learns the shape of the wound and builds around it. The tree never forgets where it was hurt. It becomes stronger there, not in defiance, but in adaptation. Some scars are caused by fire, some by storms. A lightning strike may split a trunk, leaving a long seam down its center. The tree, if it survives, will not try to hide it. It will close the wound slowly, over years, wrapping layers of wood around it. The crack will remain within, sealed, but remembered. Inside the trunk, that space will never carry water again. It becomes a sealed chamber, empty but full of meaning. Insect attacks leave other kinds of scars, small holes, galleries of chew marks, tunnels beneath bark. The tree responds with chemicals. It releases resins or tannins, sticky and bitter. These substances are not just defense, they are messages. A tree that produces resin around a wound is signaling both danger and control. It says this space is protected. It marks the site not for removal, but for attention. Fungal infections cause slower, subtler scars. They may discolor the wood or create hollow spaces. But even these are met with response. The tree sends reinforcing cells. It adjusts its structure to support weakened limbs. The surrounding wood thickens. Growth rings curve, showing the effort it takes to keep balance. These curves are not deformities. They are records of decision. Not all scars come from attack. Some come from within. If a branch dies and falls, it leaves behind a mark at the joint. The tree seals it off, creating a knot in the wood. These knots are visible in timber, where they appear as swirling patterns. But in the living tree, they are points of memory. They are spaces where connection once was. The knot is not decay. It is closure. In places with heavy snowfall, trees bend under the weight. Some break, others twist. Those that survive develop compression wood, a denser tissue that strengthens the side under stress. This wood is darker, stronger, and often shaped differently. It forms not to follow beauty, but to ensure survival. The tree senses pressure and builds accordingly. The scar is not separate from the whole. It is the reason the tree still stands. When animals rub against a tree or peel away its bark, the wound left behind may seem insignificant. But the tree responds immediately. It forms a callus, a ring of healing tissue that grows inward from the edges. This callus does not match the original bark. It is rougher, often cracked, but it serves its purpose. It closes the gap. It keeps moisture in and pathogens out. Over time, the scar becomes part of the trunk's surface, indistinguishable from other marks unless closely examined. Trees that experience repeated damage develop habits. A tree that has faced wind from one direction may grow thicker rings on the windward side. One that has lost a limb may redirect its energy into another branch. These choices are not made with thought. They are made through pressure, light, chemistry, and history. The scar is not a weakness. It is information. The scarred wood inside a tree often becomes heartwood. This is the central core, no longer alive but still vital. Heartwood carries no sap. It supports the weight of the tree. It is often darker and denser, filled with chemical preservatives. These substances resist decay. They are the result of transformation. Living tissue becomes still, becomes structure, becomes memory. The outer rings grow and change, but the heartwood holds the past. In some trees, scars are visible even in the leaves. A tree exposed to pollution or extreme temperature may develop patches of discolored tissue. These patches do not spread. The tree compartmentalizes them. It draws a line around the damage, sealing it off, limiting its effect. This is not isolation, it is containment. The tree allows the wound to exist, but does not allow it to define the whole. The practice of compartmentalization is central to tree survival. When damaged, a tree does not try to heal in the way animals do. It does not regenerate lost tissue. Instead, it walls off the wound. It grows around it. The damage remains but is kept from spreading. This process is called coded compartmentalization of decay in trees. It is a strategy of boundaries, of quiet refusal to let injury become collapse. Woodworkers sometimes find scars in timber that tell of a long life. Knots, hollows, discolorations. These marks are not flaws, they are stories. They speak of droughts, insects, storms. Each twist in the grain is a sentence written in growth. When polished, these scars shine. They reflect. Light differently, they hold more character. In the living tree, these same marks offer structure, strength, and identity. You walk through a forest and see trees that lean, that spiral, that curve in strange ways. These shapes are not mistakes, they are responses. The tree grows toward light, away from shadow, around damage. Every angle is a decision made in silence. Every bend is a memory held in wood. A young tree may look perfect, smooth and upright, but over time, the marks come. No tree escapes them, and none need to. The forest is not a gallery of perfection. It is a field of survivors. Each tree wears its history openly, not for decoration, not for pity, but because it cannot be otherwise. You place your hand on a tree and feel a ridge beneath the bark. Perhaps the bark has healed over. Perhaps the wood still shows the mark. That line is a memory. It is a moment when the tree changed direction. It is a part of its language, not spoken, but carried in form. As you prepare for rest, remember that. Scars are not just reminders of injury, they are proof of healing. They are shapes that would not exist without effort. The tree did not choose to be hurt, but it chose how to continue. And in that choice, it grew stronger. You sleep near trees that have survived wind, fire, drought, and time. They do not forget what they have been through. They grow around it. They grow through it. And in the quiet of their trunks, they carry stories written in wood and silence. The forest does not hide its pain. It transforms it. The air around you feels empty, but it is full of messages. Invisible particles drift between branches. Molecules of scent, signals of danger, hints of water, whispers of decay. The air carries the world in pieces so small they go unnoticed by the eye. But the tree notices. It inhales without lungs. It tastes without a tongue. It reads the air the way you might read a familiar face. Slowly, carefully, with memory. A tree does not breathe like you do. It does not have a chest that rises and falls. Instead, it opens its leaves. On the underside of each leaf, there are tiny openings called stomata. These are gates to the inner world. Through them, carbon dioxide enters and oxygen exits. But more than gases pass through. The tree takes in the feel of the air, the weight of its dryness, the softness of its moisture. The air becomes a message, and the leaf listens. The tree uses the air to understand its surroundings. When carbon dioxide is plentiful, the leaf opens wider, inviting in the raw material it needs for photosynthesis. When the air is dry, the leaf closes to conserve water. These actions are small, almost imperceptible, but they change everything. They decide how much food the tree will make, how much water it will lose, how much energy it will store. The tree decides without thinking. It senses, it responds. In cities, the air carries new signals. Pollutants from factories and traffic settle on leaves. Some trees absorb these toxins, processing them through internal chemistry. Others suffer. Their stomata clog, their leaves yellow. But even this is a kind of communication. The tree is telling you what the air cannot say on its own. That something is wrong. That balance is broken. In forests, the air is shared. One tree releases moisture through its leaves. This transpiration becomes part of the local humidity, affecting the trees nearby. A forest can create its own climate. It breathes together. When air currents shift, the trees adjust. They may change the angle of their leaves. They may alter the shape of new growth. These changes are not random. They are based on what the tree feels moving around it. Some trees release chemicals into the air when they are attacked. A bite from an insect triggers a reaction in the leaf. It begins to produce volatile organic compounds, molecules that drift away like smoke. These chemicals warn neighboring trees. They prepare their own defenses. They change the taste of their leaves. They call for help. Some compounds attract the predators of the insect doing the damage. In this way, the air becomes a battlefield of signals. Silent, scent-based, strategic. The air also carries clues about seasons. As the days grow shorter, the light shifts in tone. The air cools. Humidity changes. The tree senses all this through its leaves and begins to prepare. Chlorophyll fades. Other pigments rise. The leaves change color. This is not decoration. It is communication. The tree is telling itself, and the forest, that rest is coming, that it is time to slow down. Trees that grow in windy places become experts in motion. They build flexible branches. They develop leaves that twist and spill the wind. But they also use wind as a signal. A strong wind may carry salt inland from the sea. A tree near the shore learns to recognize this and adjusts its leaf surface to resist the drying effect. A forest on a mountain may bend daily in the same direction, shaping its growth over time. Wind is not just pressure. It is a teacher. Some trees grow in areas with frequent fires. They can smell smoke long before the flames arrive. Certain molecules. In the smoke signal the presence of danger. These compounds can trigger chemical changes in the tree. Some prepare to drop their leaves. Others increase resin production to seal their bark. In some species, smoke actually triggers growth. Seeds that have waited years will only sprout after sensing the specific scent of burned wood. Fire becomes a whisper of opportunity. Rain too sends signals. The scent of approaching rain, often sensed by animals, is also detected by plants. A chemical called petrichor, released when rain hits dry soil, drifts into the air. Some trees respond to this scent by opening their stomata wider, ready to drink. Others begin sending energy to roots to take advantage of the coming moisture. The air before the rain speaks, and the tree listens. The tree does not need a brain. To interpret these cues, its cells respond directly to chemical gradients. Hormones shift. Genes turn on or off. The reaction is precise and efficient. It does not require thought. It only requires awareness. That awareness lives in the membranes of each cell, in the fluid of the veins, in the gentle stretch of the leaf as it opens and closes. In polluted air, trees become quiet. Their stomata close more often. Photosynthesis slows. Growth shrinks. The tree is conserving energy, protecting itself from what it cannot stop. But some trees adapt. They grow thicker leaves. They produce waxy coatings. They secrete substances that neutralize harmful compounds. This is not resistance. It is understanding. The tree is learning from what it breathes. Even in the stillest air, the tree is at work. At night, when the wind dies and the sky softens, the leaves remain active. Carbon dioxide continues to enter. Oxygen flows out. The stomata open and close in rhythm with internal signals. The tree breathes differently. In darkness, more slowly, more gently. Like you, it rests, but it never truly stops. Some scientists believe that trees can recognize the difference between their own leaves and those of another tree through the air they emit. Each tree has a chemical signature, a unique blend of scents and molecules. This signature allows them to detect kin, to respond differently to strangers. It creates a sense of belonging, not in the way humans do, but in a biological language of scent and response. The air also carries the sounds of insects, the vibration of wings, the echoes of distant storms. Some trees are sensitive to these vibrations. Root tips grow differently when exposed to the sound of running water. Leaves may change orientation when brushed repeatedly by insect feet. These responses are not accidents. They are tuned reactions to the world. The tree is reading the air, not just with its surface, but with its entire form. When you stand beneath a tree and feel the breeze, you are sharing in its language. The leaves are not just moving, they are measuring, they are absorbing information. You cannot detect the scent of a distant fire, the trace of a nearby animal, the weight of coming rain. To the tree, all of this is useful. All of this is remembered. You breathe deeply in a forest and feel peace. Perhaps this is because the air has been filtered by countless leaves. Perhaps it is because the trees have shaped that air through their own slow breath. The forest is not only full of oxygen, it is full of experience. Each molecule of air has touched bark and leaf, has passed through light and shadow, has carried a message before it reached your lungs. As you lie down beneath the branches, the air settles around you. It holds the warmth of the day, the scent of bark, the softness of leaf. You may not hear it, but the tree continues to read. It continues to taste. It continues to know. The language is silent, but it is complete. The tree needs no sound to listen. It needs only time. You close your eyes. The air touches your skin. It passes between your breaths. And somewhere above you, the tree leans slightly, its leaves turning towards something it alone can sense. It speaks without speaking. It listens without ears. It remembers without thought. And it welcomes you into the stillness of its breath. Inside the tree, messages move without words. There is no central command, no brain to decide what happens next. Yet the tree responds to light, to wounds, to water, to change. It grows, it defends, it rests. These decisions are guided by messengers that move cell to cell, floating through veins, seeping between layers of tissue. These messengers are hormones. They are invisible and precise. They do not rush. They do not shout. They whisper through the tree, triggering what needs to happen exactly when it must. A hormone in a tree is not so different from a hormone in your own body. It is a chemical signal created in one place and sent to another. It does not carry thoughts. It carries instruction. Do this. Stop that. Grow here. Slow down. Begin now. And just like in you, the same hormone may have different effects depending on where it is received. Context is everything. A drop of the right signal in the right place can change the path of a whole branch. One of the most important hormones is auxin. It helps the tree grow upward. It tells cells when to divide and how to stretch. It helps roots grow down and branches reach toward light. Auxin is produced in young shoots and tips of roots. From there, it flows downward through the stem. This slow flow creates polarity. The tree knows which way is up, which way is down. It organizes its shape around this invisible river. When light falls unevenly on the tree, auxin responds. In the shaded side of a stem, more auxin collects. This causes those cells to stretch more, bending the stem toward the light. The tree does not see, but it leans. It adjusts. It listens to light with chemicals. Another hormone, gibberellin, promotes growth in height and leaf expansion. It encourages seeds to germinate, buds to open, and fruits to develop. It moves through the tree when warmth and moisture signal that the time is right. When the season turns cold, the hormone slows. Growth pauses. Energy shifts inward. The tree rests, not in sleep, but in conservation. Cytokinins are messengers of division. They tell cells when to make copies, when to specialize, when to form tissue. They balance the action of auxin, creating harmony between upward and outward growth. In roots, they move upward, while auxin moves downward. Where they meet, decisions happen. A bud may remain dormant, or it may awaken. A new shoot may form, or a leaf may thicken. These messengers negotiate in silence. Abscisic acid is the hormone of restraint. When water is scarce or temperatures drop, it signals the tree to close its stomata, to slow growth, to conserve. This hormone can be found in leaves, roots, seeds. It prepares the tree for hard times, telling it to wait, to pause, to protect what it already has. Without this signal, the tree might open itself to danger. With it, the tree survives by holding still. When a tree is wounded, another hormone steps forward. Ethylene. It moves not just through tissue, but into the air. It signals ripening. It triggers leaf drop. It speeds up the aging of cells. But, in the case of injury, it begins a defensive response. The tree starts sealing off the damaged area, strengthening surrounding cells, redirecting energy. Ethylene does not ask why the wound happened. It simply responds. Each hormone works in balance with others. A tree is not a machine with switches. It is a system of flows and feedback. Auxin and cytokinin together decide where buds will grow. Gibberellin and abscisic acid balance growth and rest. Ethylene may speed up ripening while abscisic acid slows everything else. The result is not chaos, but coordination. The tree's body becomes a map of negotiations. Hormones move through the phloem, the same vessels that carry sugars from leaves to roots, but they also travel through spaces between cells. Some are carried by proteins, others diffuse freely. Their paths are shaped by need. A root sensing dry soil may send a hormonal signal upward. A leaf sensing damage may trigger defense in the entire tree. These signals are not loud, they are not immediate, but they are clear. In spring, rising temperatures and longer days change the balance of hormones. Buds that have been dormant all winter begin to swell. Cells divide. New leaves unfurl. Flowers emerge. The tree does not keep a calendar. It reads the signals in light and air, and the hormones translate those readings into growth. In autumn, as daylight shortens and air cools, the hormone balance shifts again. Abscisic acid rises. Ethylene increases. Auxin fades. Leaves begin to age, to yellow, to fall. The tree does not grieve. It prepares. Each fallen leaf takes away risk. Less water loss. Less vulnerability. The tree becomes smaller, simpler, more protected. This is not the end of the cycle. It is the inward turning that allows survival. Hormones also shape the tree's response to its neighbors. If another tree grows too close, blocking light, the shaded tree will adjust its hormone levels to grow taller or stretch sideways. If roots of another tree press into its space, hormonal signals help the tree change direction or slow expansion. These decisions are not made with awareness, but they reflect awareness of space, of competition, of presence. Some trees even release hormones into the soil, affecting other plants nearby. These chemical signals can inhibit seed germination, slow root growth, or alter microbial communities. This is not aggression, it is spatial strategy. The tree maintains room to grow. The message is clear, not here, not now. In grafted trees, where a branch from one tree is attached to the trunk of another, hormones still flow. The graft takes root. Messages pass across the boundary. The new branch begins to act as part of the whole. Even though the tissues come from different origins, the hormonal language remains the same. The tree does not ask where the new part came from. It listens to the message. In times of stress, the hormonal language becomes louder. When drought begins, roots release acid to warn the leaves. When an infection starts, ethylene rises to prepare defenses. When light disappears, auxin fades and growth slows. The tree is not overwhelmed. It reacts with care, with timing, with adjustments that happen hour by hour, season by season. You cannot see these hormones, you cannot hear them, but they are moving through the tree right now. Tiny molecules, no, larger than a breath, deciding the course of its life. Their presence is everywhere, in the buds that swell, in the roots that wait, in the leaf that turns to light. The tree is not passive. It is constantly choosing, constantly balancing, constantly changing. As you sit beside a tree, remember that it is not still inside. There are signals being exchanged from tip to root. There is a quiet dialogue unfolding beneath the bark, beneath the bark. The tree is not thinking, but it is knowing. Not watching, but responding. Every leaf that opens, every branch that curves, every root that deepens is shaped by these messengers. You close your eyes and feel your own breath. Inside you, too, are hormones signaling when to sleep, when to wake, when to grow. The tree is not so different. Its body speaks in chemistry. Its life unfolds in waves of silent instruction. In its stillness, it carries a conversation more ancient than voice. Language not of sound, but of presence. You walk into a forest and see many trees. Some are tall and wide, others are young and slender. They grow at different angles, stretch toward different patches of sky. From a distance, they appear separate, standing alone in silence. But when you stay long enough, when you sit among them and feel the way light moves and shadows shift, you begin to sense something else. Beneath their many trunks, beneath the scattered leaves and shifting canopies, there is one body, one breath, one slow awareness. The forest is not a collection. It is a single mind stretched across root and bark and time. Each tree may grow alone, but it does not live alone. Its roots touch the roots of others. Its leaves respond to the light filtered through neighboring branches. Its chemistry shifts. When another tree nearby is injured, every action is felt beyond its boundaries. These are not accidents. They are relationships. The forest is bound not by ropes or thoughts, but by systems of shared survival. The slow sharing of water, of sugar, of warnings, of shade. In a healthy forest, older trees often hold the most connections. Their roots are wide and deep. Their canopies stretch across many younger trees. They support others with stored energy. Through underground fungal networks, they pass carbon and nutrients to saplings that cannot yet reach full light. These young trees grow slowly in the shade, sustained not by their own strength, but by the generosity of those who came before them. This is not charity, it is continuity. The forest ensures its future by remembering its past. When one part of the forest is disturbed, the rest responds. A tree felled by lightning triggers changes in its neighbors. The light that opens in the canopy causes nearby branches to shift. Leaves orient differently. Growth increases. Roots press into the emptied space. The fungi beneath the soil begin to expand, reaching toward new partnerships. What looks like a loss becomes an opportunity, but the response is collective. The forest adapts together. The soil carries more than nutrients. It carries memory. A patch that once burned holds different microbes, different densities, different histories. The roots that grow there learn to stretch differently. Their chemistry adjusts. That adjustment spreads outward. The forest learns as one, not through thought, but through texture and signal. What changes in one place sends echoes through the whole. Trees sense each other, not with eyes or ears, but with light, air, vibration, and scent. A tree shaded by others grows taller or delays its leafing until it finds space. A tree sensing pest attacks in a neighbor may begin producing bitter compounds before the insects arrive. These actions are not isolated. They reflect awareness beyond the single trunk. The forest anticipates. It prepares. Not as a machine, but as a mind made of wood. The fungal networks connecting roots act like neural pathways. They move signals, relay stress, balance flows of energy. In many ways, they behave like a nervous system. But instead of firing with electricity, they shift molecules. Instead of reacting in seconds, they move over hours and days. The result is the same. The forest responds to its environment with coherence. The parts move in harmony, not always quickly, but always together. In winter, the forest slows. Growth pauses. Leaves fall. But the communication continues. Roots remain active below the frost. Fungi remain connected. The energy within each tree changes direction, turns inward. The whole forest breathes more quietly, but the breath continues. Like a sleeping body, it rests in wholeness. It remembers the warmth of seasons past. It stores strength for what comes next. There are trees that grow for centuries. In that time, they witness the rise and fall of countless companions. They see storms tear through the canopy. They watch animals come and go. They live through fires, droughts, floods. They do not forget. The chemistry inside their rings records the climate. The scars on their bark record the struggle. When they fall, their decay nourishes the forest. Even in death, they contribute. Their memory becomes soil. Their body becomes connection. Birds nest in one tree but feed in another. Squirrels carry seeds from place to place, planting without knowing. Insects breed in leaves and emerge to pollinate flowers far away. These movements create loops of interdependence. The trees rely on the animals. The animals rely on the trees. The fungi rely on both. The balance is not static. It shifts with every season, with every storm, but it holds, because the forest holds it. When humans enter a forest, they often look for what is useful: timber, fruit, space. But when the forest is taken apart tree by tree, its mind unravels. The systems that once shared and adapted fall silent. A field of stumps does not speak. It does not adjust. It does not care for the saplings left behind. Without connection, the forest forgets how to be whole. But when a forest is allowed to grow without interruption, something remarkable happens. The longer it stands, the deeper its memory becomes. The trees learn to grow with each other, not against. The roots interlock. The fungal web expands. Diversity increases, and with it, resilience. A storm that would flatten a plantation barely stirs a mature forest. A disease that kills a single tree in a row finds no easy path in a tangled community. The forest protects itself, not by isolation, but by integration. Each morning, the light enters the forest from a new angle. The leaves shift to receive it. Some trees begin photosynthesis earlier, others wait for warmth. Yet all respond to the sun's presence. The shadows change, and the forest breathes. The temperature rises, and water begins to move upward. The scent of sap changes. The sounds of insects rise. All of these are signals, not of words, but of action. The forest begins its day not in parts, but in rhythm. Even decay is shared. A fallen branch feeds the fungi. The fungi feed the roots feed the tree shades the ground. The shade slows evaporation. The soil stays moist. New seedlings survive. Death is not the end of the forest's mind. It is the way. The mind renews itself. There are forests where no single tree dominates. The canopy is made of many species, many ages, many histories, yet they move together. A dry year affects them all. A strong wind bends their trunks in harmony. The fungi do not favor one. The animals travel among them. The forest is not a hierarchy. It is a conversation among equals. Sometimes quiet, sometimes tense. Always alive, you sit beneath a tree and feel separate. But you are part of the system. 2. Your breath mingles with the leaves. The warmth of your body touches the air. The path you walk compresses the soil. You are not outside the forest. You are within it. You are sensed. You are responded to. You matter. As night falls, the forest changes again. The leaves fold. The stomata close. The upward flow of water slows. The animals quiet, but the roots remain active. The network continues. To shift nutrients. Messages still pass beneath your resting body. The forest is still awake, in a deeper layer of awareness. The mind of the forest does not sleep. It remembers, it adjusts, it waits. You close your eyes and hear nothing, but something moves around you. Not wind, not sound. A presence, a knowing. The trees around you are not many voices. They are one breath, drawn through many lungs. One mind, stretched across wood and soil and sky. The forest does not think the way you do, but it knows more than you imagine, and it holds you gently, as part of its memory. In the stillness of a forest, surrounded by towering trunks and tangled undergrowth, you might overlook the smallest trees. Saplings no taller than your shoulder lean gently toward the light that filters down through gaps. In the canopy, they are quiet and unassuming. Their leaves are fewer. Their branches are thinner, yet they are not alone. Though they grow in shadow, though they seem too small to survive on their own, they are being cared for, not by wind or rain or luck, but by the trees around them, especially by the ones that have stood the longest. Trees do not raise their young in the way animals do. There are no cradles or sheltering limbs. But some trees guide and protect the next generation with a form of caregiving that is slow, invisible, and profound beneath the soil. The roots of older trees reach far and wide. These roots are not just for support or for water. They are bridges to the young. Through the fungal networks that wrap around them, older trees send carbon and nutrients to seedlings rooted nearby. These connections are not random. In many cases, the mother tree prefers her own offspring. Through chemical recognition, she identifies the saplings that grew from her seeds and directs her resources accordingly. This is not favoritism, it is survival. Her own genetic future stands in those delicate stems. Helping them helps the forest remain whole. The soil is full of hunger. Young trees, shaded by taller neighbors, often cannot make enough sugar through photosynthesis to survive. Their leaves are small and light is scarce, but through the underground network they receive what they cannot make. Carbon compounds pass from one root system to another. The mother tree feeds her young quietly, continuously. She does not withhold. She does not demand. She simply gives. This transfer of nutrients can continue for years. Some seedlings remain in a state of quiet growth for a long time. They do not rush upward. They wait in shade, gathering strength slowly. The mother tree ensures they are not starved in the dark. She senses their needs through the pull of water, through the pressure in the network, through subtle shifts in chemical signals. The tree does not look. She feels. The forest listens through its roots. Even when not directly connected, older trees influence the lives of the young. Their canopies regulate temperature and moisture. They shield against harsh winds. Their fallen leaves enrich the soil. Their roots hold the earth in place. Their very presence creates the conditions where new life can begin. The young grow in the shadow of those who came before, but that shadow is not a barrier. It is a protection. In some species, such caregiving extends even beyond death. A tree that has fallen may continue to support its offspring through roots that remain alive. Carbon still flows. Nutrients still pass. The tree's body returns to the soil, but its function does not end. The decay becomes a gift. The gap in the canopy lets light through. The softened ground allows easier rooting. The fallen tree becomes both memory and opportunity. Trees also send warnings. If a pest invades or a drought begins, older trees adjust their chemistry. They release airborne signals and change the compounds in their roots. These signals reach younger trees, preparing them for what lies ahead. The saplings may begin producing defensive chemicals before they are attacked. They may reduce water loss before the soil dries completely. These acts are not foresight. They are echoes of experience passed along. Mother trees are not always the largest. They are often the oldest, the most deeply rooted, the most widely connected. Their influence is not measured by height, but by reach. In some forests, a single mother tree may be linked to dozens of others. Her presence anchors a wide web of life. Her absence would leave silence beneath the soil. Scientists have mapped these networks, tracing the flow of carbon from one tree to another. They have watched as seedlings grew faster near their mothers, survived more often, recovered more quickly after stress. This is not myth, it is biology. The forest raises its young not through nurture in the human sense, but through connection. A young tree in isolation is more likely to fail. A young tree in community learns how to live. There are moments in a forest when you can feel this quiet caregiving. After rain, when the soil is soft and the air smells of moss and root, you may notice how the saplings cluster around the bases of larger trees. They are not planted there. They choose to grow where support is strongest. The mother tree does not move, but her presence draws them in. When fire or storm clears part of the forest, the role of the mother tree becomes even more clear. Her deep roots survive. Her fungal partners remain. Her energy stores begin to move. Outward, in the open space, her offspring rise faster. They fill the gap. The forest does not begin again. It continues through her. Some scientists hesitate to use the word mother for trees. They worry about implying emotion or intention, but words do not change what happens underground. Whether we call it parenting or transfer caregiving or connection, the effect is real. Older trees protect younger ones. They pass on energy, support, and resilience. They ensure that life does not begin empty. Trees that receive support grow differently. They would forms with fewer stress rings. Their branches reach more evenly. Their roots spread with more confidence. These are not just physical traits. They are records of relationship. The forest does not grow by accident. It grows by response. You sit near a sapling and wonder how it survives in so little light. But beneath the surface, it is fed. It is spoken to. It is included. It does not need to rush. It learns first to belong. Its leaves are fewer, but its roots are not alone. As you lie back and watch the older trees sway gently above, know that they are not only standing, They are still giving. They are still listening. Their quiet stillness is not a pause. It is an offering. Their life is not their own. It is shared. You close your eyes beneath this canopy and breathe the air shaped by leaves you cannot reach. The ground beneath you is held in place by roots you will never see. The forest does not make announcements. It does not declare its care. But in the stillness, you feel it. The young are growing in the shadows. The old are still feeding the soil. And the story of the forest continues. The forest never truly sleeps, but it does change its voice. Across the year, the language of trees shifts from energy to rest, from growth to patience, from breath to stillness. These changes are not random. They are responses shaped by the slow rhythm of the earth as it turns around the sun. The seasons arrive not as strangers, but as familiar guests, each carrying a new message for the trees to receive. The trees listen with their leaves, their roots, their sap, their cells, and in return they respond with motion, with memory, and with silence. In spring, the first conversation begins in the soil. As the ground warms, ice melts, and water begins to flow more freely. Roots stir, sensing moisture and chemical signals left behind by microbes that survived the winter. Sap begins to rise. Buds swell at the tips of branches, fed by sugars stored deep in the roots. These buds do not burst open immediately. They wait for light to stay longer, for air to soften, for night to release its grip. When the time is right, they open. Tiny leaves unfurl, fragile and pale, reaching toward a sun that has slowly returned. This unfolding is the forest's greeting. Its quiet way of saying yes to the world again. Spring is a time of questions and answers. The tree asks the air how much light is coming, and the air answers through warmth. The tree asks the soil how much water remains, and the soil responds through pressure and salt. Hormones move through the tree, shifting the balance between growth and reserve. Each new leaf is a promise. Each new root is a risk. The tree extends itself, testing the season's truth. Will it hold steady or return to frost? The forest speaks carefully in spring, knowing that too much eagerness can bring loss. As spring becomes summer, the conversation deepens. Now the tree speaks through photosynthesis. It absorbs sunlight and carbon dioxide and turns them into sugar and oxygen. The sugar feeds its branches, its roots, its neighbors through fungal networks. The oxygen joins the air, becomes part of every breath nearby. The forest hums with production. Every leaf becomes a listener and a speaker. Water moves upward from the soil into the canopy, pulled by evaporation. This movement cools the leaves, feeds the cells, creates tension within the tree's veins. Summer is not still. It is full of motion, most of it unseen. Insects arrive, drawn by scent and softness. Some feed, some pollinate. The tree responds to feeding with chemistry. It thickens its leaves, alters its taste, releases scents that call other insects to come hunt the intruders. These responses are not loud. They are measured. The forest knows that summer brings both abundance and threat. It does not panic. It balances. The branches stretch, but only as far as they can support. The leaves open wider, but only until the light becomes too strong. The tree holds steady between expansion and control. Deep in the roots, summer signals a different kind of message. The water table shifts. Fungal partners change their behavior. Some bring more phosphorus, others withdraw. The tree notices. It adjusts its chemistry, alters its hormone levels. The root tips slow their growth or push forward, depending on what they find. The soil speaks with texture, with chemistry, with time. The roots listen with patience. Summer also brings storms. Wind moves through the canopy, testing each branch. The tree feels the pressure and tightens its cells. It does not resist the wind with stiffness. It bends, it flows. It yields just enough to stay whole. Rain follows, carrying nitrogen and minerals. The leaves drink, the bark absorbs. Every drop is noticed. Every change in air pressure is recorded. The forest learns through repetition, through cycles, through trust built slowly over years. Then autumn approaches, and the conversation changes. Again, the light softens, the nights lengthen, the air grows dry, the tree begins to turn inward. Chlorophyll fades from the leaves, revealing colors that were always present but hidden. These colors are not just beauty. They are signs of transition. The tree is withdrawing nutrients from its leaves, storing them in the trunk and roots. It is not wasting energy on what will fall. It is gathering strength for what must come. Hormones shift, growth slows. Buds form at the tips of branches, but they do not open. They wait, sealed in protective layers. These buds are messages written for the next spring. The tree is preparing not just to rest, but to remember. Each fallen leaf is a sentence closed. Each bare branch is an acknowledgement of change. The forest becomes quieter, but not empty. Beneath the surface, the roots remain active. They continue to absorb water, to maintain connection, to store energy. The conversation has moved downward. Autumn is the forest's way of letting go. Not with sorrow, but with wisdom. What is no longer needed is released. What is essential is held close. The wind carries leaves to the ground, where they will decay and become part of the soil. The tree does not cling, it transforms. The nutrients in the leaves will return through the roots in seasons to come. The cycle is not a loss, it is a return. It is a return. Winter arrives not as silence, but as pause. The forest breathes more slowly. The sap thickens. The stomata close. The tree enters dormancy. But this dormancy is not death. It is focus. The tree conserves what it has. It listens more than it speaks. It waits. Some cells divide slowly, repairing tissue. Others shut down entirely. The tree protects itself from freezing by adjusting the water in its cells, by producing sugars and proteins that act like antifreeze. Even in deep cold, the tree is not helpless. It is prepared. Snow settles on branches. Ice glazes the bark. The tree does not resist. It bears the weight with stillness. Inside, its structure remembers the storms of years past. It bends where it must. It cracks if it must. But even a crack is followed by healing. The forest in winter holds its knowledge deep. The canopy is open. The light reaches farther. The animals move less. The soil rests. Yet even now, messages move. Roots respond to subtle changes in temperature. Buds sense the increase in daylight. As the solstice passes, the forest is listening for spring. The seasonal conversation is not always smooth. Some years bring early warmth, followed by frost. Others bring drought or sudden floods. The trees respond as best they can. They lose more leaves or fewer. They grow smaller rings. They hold their buds longer. Each year becomes part of their record. Not written in memory, but in form. In the shape of branches, in the width of rings, in the chemistry of leaves. The forest keeps time without clocks. When you walk through the forest in different seasons, you are stepping into these conversations. You may feel the freshness of spring in the scent of wet bark. You may hear summer in the rustle of thick leaves. You may see autumn in the golden flaw of fallen color. You may feel winter in the stillness of cold trunks and quiet air. The forest is always speaking, but never in haste. Its language moves with the planet. Its rhythm is older than language itself. You sit beneath a tree and feel the season in your skin. The light is warmer or weaker. The breeze carries pollen or ice. The forest does not need to tell you what time it is. It shows you. It surrounds you with the truth of change. You are not separate from this rhythm. Your body too feels the tilt of the earth. Your breath too adjusts with the air. The trees know this, and they welcome you into the cycle. You close your eyes as the wind passes gently through branches above. Whether spring is blooming or autumn is falling, whether winter is deep or summer is bright, you are resting in a place that knows how to change. The trees do not cling to any one moment. They move with time. They speak through seasons, and they invite you to listen. When you think of sleep, you imagine a body at rest, a slowing of breath, a soft withdrawal from the world. You close your eyes and let go, but trees have no eyelids. They do not lie down. They do not close themselves off from the sky, and yet they sleep. Not in the same way you do, but in a rhythm just as essential, just as deep. Trees follow the light, and when light disappears, they enter a different state. Their activity slows, their chemistry shifts, their leaves change posture. They do not vanish from the world. They rest within it. Sleep for a tree begins with the fall of sunlight. As the earth turns and night approaches, the tree begins to adjust. The stomata on the underside of the leaves begin to close. These tiny pores control the intake of carbon dioxide and the release of water vapor. In daylight, they remain open, regulating gas exchange. But in darkness, the demand for carbon dioxide stops. Photosynthesis is paused. The energy of light is no longer available. The tree begins to conserve. The stomata shut gently. The leaves relax. Many trees also change the angle of their leaves at night. Some fold slightly. Some tilt downward. Others droop entirely. This movement is subtle, but visible if you watch long enough. It is called nyctonicity, a term that describes the response of plants to darkness. These changes are controlled by pressure. Within the cells, a shifting of fluid that alters shape without noise or force. The tree does not sleep all at once. Each leaf moves according to its own rhythm, responding to the loss of light, like a wave across the canopy. Inside the tree, sap flow slows. Water still moves upward from the roots, but the pace decreases. Without the heat of the sun, evaporation lessens. The tension in the xylem vessels is reduced. The tree adjusts its internal balance. Sugar production halts, but transport continues. Nutrients are still carried through the phloem, from storage sites to areas of repair or slow growth. The tree is not inert. It is simply quieter. At night, other processes become more active. Cells repair themselves. Damaged tissue is rebuilt. Genetic material is copied in preparation for new growth. The tree invests in maintenance. It heals from the strain of the day. If a branch was bent or a leaf torn, the tree begins the slow work of recovery. This is not dramatic. It is ongoing, steady, essential. Just as you heal in sleep, so too does the tree. Roots remain sensitive at night. They continue to explore the soil, searching for water, nutrients, and space. In some trees, root growth increases in the dark hours. Without the demand from leaves for water during photosynthesis, more energy can be directed downward. The soil is often cooler and more moist at night. The conditions favor expansion. Quietly, the tree deepens its hold on the earth. Trees also respond to the moon. While their main cues come from sunlight, some studies suggest that the gravitational influence of the moon affects water movement within plant tissues. Sap may rise slightly during certain lunar phases, while the full impact of moonlight on trees is still being explored. It is clear that trees are aware of rhythms longer than day and night. Their sleep is tied not just to darkness, but to cycles, layered over each other, from hours to weeks to seasons. Not all trees sleep the same way. Tropical species near the equator experience consistent day lengths. Their nyctinastic movements are regular, steady, and often more pronounced. Temperate trees, with long summer days and short winter days, must adjust their rhythms constantly. In regions with extreme light cycles, such as the far north, trees adapt to periods of near constant daylight or darkness. Their internal clocks are flexible but precise. They use both light and temperature to stay aligned with their environment. Even in dormancy, trees retain a sense of time. In winter, when deciduous trees lose their leaves and enter a deeper rest, the internal rhythms continue. The buds formed in autumn hold the promise of spring. These buds are not dead, they are paused. Their cells remain alive, protected by layers of modified leaves. The tree measures the passing of cold through chemical changes. Only after enough chilling hours will it prepare to awaken. This is a form of long sleep, not unconsciousness, but waiting. Within the cells, circadian rhythms govern activity. These cycles last about 24 hours and are present even in isolated plant cells grown in darkness. They are self-sustaining clocks, shaped by millions of years of evolution. They regulate when genes are turned on and off, when enzymes are active, when hormones rise or fall. The tree lives by these rhythms. It does not need light to remember them. Light only resets the clock. The forest at night feels still, but it is alive with sleep. Not a silence of emptiness, but of focus. The trees are not speaking through scent or growth or upward motion. They are listening inward. The repair of bark, the renewal of chloroplasts, the redistribution of minerals all continue beneath the skin. The forest breathes differently at night. The air is heavier, cooler, often more moist. This changes how the leaves exchange gases, how the roots draw in water, how the microbes in the soil behave. Sleep touches all parts of the forest. Animals sleep among these trees, wrapped in the scent of bark and the softness of moss. Some find rest in branches, others in the hollows of trunks. The tree does not guard them, but it makes space for them. The calm it holds allows others to rest. The rhythm it sets invites quiet. Its stillness is a gift. There are moments in the forest when the night deepens so completely that even the smallest sounds seem far away. In these moments, you can feel the trees most clearly. Their branches do not move. Their leaves hang gently. The sap still flows, but you would never know it. The tree is not gone. It is entirely here, but inward. A presence focused on itself, rebalancing after the long light dot. As dawn approaches, the sky begins to change. Light filters through the horizon. The air stirs. The temperature rises slightly. The tree senses these shifts before your eyes can register. Then, its stomata begin to open. Hormones shift. Sugar production will begin again soon. The leaves adjust their posture, preparing to meet the sun. Sleep ends without alarm. It dissolves into activity. The tree does not rush. It resumes. You sit beneath a tree and wonder what it has done in the hours you were sleeping. You imagine it waiting, but it was not waiting. It was tending to itself. It was continuing the work of life in the most essential way, by pausing, by healing, by preparing. Sleep is not absence, it is protection. The tree knows this better than you do. It surrenders to the rhythm and wakes in peace. As you lie back, the first light reaches through the branches. The tree stretches, not with movement, but with renewal. Its cells hum with energy. Its roots remember the dark. Its leaves prepare for light, and you, too, return to your breath, your senses, your presence. You and the tree have shared this night, each in your own rhythm. And now, together, you rise into morning. The forest is never truly silent. Even when the air is still and the leaves hang motionless, trees are speaking not through sound, but through scent. Invisible clouds of molecules drift from leaf to leaf, root to root, tree to tree. These scents are not meant for you. You may catch a trace of pine, a sweetness in spring, the crisp dryness of autumn. But beneath that surface, the real messages travel in quiet urgency. They are carried on wind and woven into the air, and trees understand them completely. When a tree is bitten by an insect chewing a leaf or a caterpillar curling into bark, it does not stay quiet. It begins to emit volatile organic compounds, tiny molecules that move quickly through the air. These compounds are more than a cry for help. They are descriptions. Some say what kind of insect is feeding. Others say how severe the damage is. The tree tailors its message. It sends not just scent, but information. Nearby trees receive these molecules and respond. Their leaves change. Their chemistry shifts. They begin to produce defensive compounds before they are attacked. Some thicken their cell walls. Others flood their tissues with bitter or toxic chemicals. Some trees emit their own signals in response, amplifying the message across the forest. Within hours, a single bite can become a broadcast. The forest is not just reacting, it is coordinating. These scented signals do not travel without cost. Producing them takes energy. But for trees, the risk of staying silent is greater. Being unprepared for attack means losing leaves, losing light, losing the ability to survive. So they invest in communication. They send messages not just when under threat, but also to warn of drought, heat, or disease. The forest becomes a network of quiet alarms, each tree alerting others, even those far beyond sight. Some of the most well-known signals come from acacia trees on African savannas. When giraffes begin feeding on their leaves, the acacias release ethylene gas into the air. Trees downwind sense this gas and begin to pump tannins into their leaves, making them unpalatable or even toxic. The giraffes notice too. They move upwind against the message. The trees are not passive. They shape their environment by scent. In forests around the world, similar processes unfold. Birch trees emit compounds that attract predators of the insects feeding on them. Tomato plants, when nibbled, release scents that cause nearby tomatoes to increase their defenses. Corn plants call in parasitic wasps. These responses are not isolated. They are part of a broader language built on chemistry, timing, and sensitivity. Plants do not wait, they announce. The complexity of these messages is profound. The same compound may mean different things depending on context, time of day, season, level of damage, the age of the leaf. The combination of multiple molecules can form entirely new meanings. Scientists are still decoding this language, but trees already understand it. They live in it. Every leaf is a sensor. Every surface a sender. Scented signals also shape relationships underground. When roots are injured, trees release chemicals into the soil that attract helpful fungi or bacteria. Some even send warning signals to the mycorrhizal networks that link them to other trees. These networks, in turn, distribute alerts to distant neighbors. A tree in one part of the forest may prepare for drought because another tree sensed it first. Information moves, not in seconds, but in waves, slow, sure, effective. Not all messages are warnings. Trees also use scent to coordinate flowering. In Some species, chemical cues help entire groves bloom at once, increasing pollination success. Others release scents that attract specific insects at specific times. Some scents deter herbivores, others invite birds that feed on pests. The forest is a negotiation of intention. What you smell as pleasant or sharp is only a fragment of the real dialogue. Even fallen leaves continue the conversation. As they decay, they release compounds into the air and soil. These scents signal microbes, attract decomposers, or warn nearby plants of changes in pH or nutrient levels. The dying part of the tree still contributes to the living system. It does not vanish. It transforms its presence through scent. Season affects scent, too. In spring, the air is rich with green. Leaf volatiles, molecules released by young leaves as they grow and stretch. In summer, the forest smells of terpenes and resins, defensive scents layered in the heat. Autumn brings a softer chemistry, the scent of decay and transition, of tannins and aging sugars. Winter carries less scent, but not none. Some trees continue to emit slow signals through bark or buds. The language never stops. It only softens. Trees also adapt their scent vocabulary over time. A young tree may release different compounds than an older one. A tree grown in dry conditions may emphasize drought signals, while one in a dense forest may focus on crowding. These shifts are not just reactions. They are memories, chemical reflections of a tree's experience. A single pine, shaped by years of wind, shade, and insect visits, develops a unique chemical fingerprint. This becomes part of its voice. The forest, then, becomes a space filled with overlapping messages. A constant conversation floats on the breeze and clings to the bark. Each moment is shaped by hundreds of signals, warnings, invitations, defenses, announcements. The air is not empty. It is full of meaning. To walk through the forest is to walk through language one you cannot hear but are still surrounded by. When you inhale near a tree, you are taking in its story. You are breathing the evidence of its presence. The sharpness of pine, the spice of cedar, the sweetness of maple sap, these are not accidents. They are signals. They speak of water levels, sunlight, predators, age, and health. The tree is not performing, it is existing. And its existence releases scent. Some scents are fleeting, gone within moments of release. Others linger, absorbed into soil, bark, and air. Some become part of the memory of a place. The scent of a forest after rain, the smell of crushed leaves, the fragrance of sap in summer, these experiences are part of the forest's ongoing message. You may not understand the full sentence, but you are touched by its rhythm. There are moments when the forest seems especially alive with scent. After a storm, when leaves are bruised and bark is wet, or at dusk, when temperature and humidity shift, the signals rise. You may feel them before you smell them. A change in mood, a tightening in the air. The trees are adjusting. They are updating one another. They are remembering together. You sit beneath a tree and breathe slowly. You let the air pass through you without question. The tree beside you is still. Its branches do not move. Yet it is speaking through chemicals too small to see, through signals too subtle to chart. It is saying something essential about now. You do not need to translate it. You only need to feel it. And as you close your eyes, wrapped in the softness of night, the forest continues to murmur, not through wind, but through scent, not in words, but in presence. It tells its stories in every molecule that moves, every compound that drifts. And though the language was not written for you, it welcomes you into its rhythm. Beneath your feet, just below the surface of the soil, there is a world alive with threads. These threads are not roots, though they touch them. They are not wires, though they carry signals. They belong to fungi, ancient, quiet, persistent, forming vast networks that stretch for meters, even kilometers, through the earth. You cannot see them, but they are there, weaving one tree to another, forming connections that scientists now call the Wood Wide Web. And just like the internet, this network allows the sharing of information, of resources, of warnings and care. It is not a metaphor, it is real. The forest is connected by a living system older than cities, older than speech, older even than trees themselves. These fungal networks are made of structures called mycelium, thin white threads that branch and spread beneath the soil. When they meet the roots of a tree, they form a partnership. The fungus helps the tree absorb water and nutrients, especially phosphorus and nitrogen, which are difficult to reach alone. In return, the tree shares some of its sugars, made from sunlight and air. This exchange is not temporary. It is lasting, intimate, and deeply efficient. Over time, the roots and the fungus begin to act as one system, communicating, balancing, sustaining. But the magic of the Wood Wide Web goes beyond this one-to-one exchange. These fungal threads connect not just one tree, but many. A single fungus can link dozens, even hundreds of trees in the same forest. Nutrients and signals can pass from one to another through this invisible system. A tree in shade may receive extra carbon from a tree in light. A sapling, still too small to make enough sugar, may be fed by the older trees nearby. These exchanges are not random. They follow patterns of kinship, age, and need. The forest, through its fungal web, cares for its own. Older trees, called mother trees, play a central role. Their roots are deep, their canopies wide, their presence steady. They act as hubs in the network, supporting younger trees around them. When a mother tree senses drought or damage, she may send warning signals through the fungal threads. Neighboring trees adjust their chemistry, brace for stress, conserve water. In this way, the forest becomes more than a group of individuals. It becomes a community that remembers, that prepares, that listens. The signals that move through the Wood Wide Web are varied. Electrical impulses, chemical messengers, even hormonal cues. Some travel quickly, others slowly. Some warn of insect attacks. Others regulate growth. Still others influence flowering, seed release, or immune responses. The system is not centralized. There is no controller, but it is not chaotic either. It is collaborative, shaped by feedback, by experience, by survival. This underground communication also affects the animals above. Trees that are better nourished and better defended grow stronger, offering more fruit, more shelter, more stability to the creatures who live in their branches and trunks. A single mycelial network, feeding and informing a stand of trees, supports entire ecosystems of birds, insects, mammals, and fungi. The health of one affects the health of all. Disruption in one part can echo across the whole. Not all fungi participate. In the same way, some are generous, forming broad partnerships. Others are more selective. A few are even parasitic, extracting sugars without offering much in return. Trees, too, are not always equal in the system. Some give more than they take. Others take more than they give. The balance shifts with age, with season, with weather. But overall, the network tends toward sharing, toward resilience. In forests disturbed by humans, where soil is compacted, chemicals added, or trees removed, these networks are often broken. Without the Wood Wide Web, trees are more vulnerable. They struggle to find water, to resist pests, to grow evenly. Replanting alone is not enough. Without fungi, the threads are missing. The forest's memory is incomplete. The healing is slower. But if left alone, the mycelium returns. Quietly, invisibly, it rebuilds its bridges beneath the soil, one strand at a time. Some scientists believe that mycelial networks may also play a role in carbon storage. By linking trees and soil, they help regulate the movement of carbon through the ecosystem. Others are exploring the idea that mycelium acts like a brain for the forest, processing information, responding to change, even learning over time. While these ideas are still being tested, one truth is clear: the forest knows more than we thought, and its knowledge lives underground. You walk through the forest and see trunks, leaves, branches, and sky. You step on fallen needles, on patches of moss, on tangled roots. But beneath each step is a network so vast, so delicate, and so vital that without it, the trees would fall silent. The mycelium does not sing. It does not shine. It whispers through molecules. It speaks through presence. It holds the forest in connection at night. When the world grows still and the air cools, this network continues to function. Water continues to move. Sugars are sent. Signals are exchanged. Even in sleep, the trees remain in touch. The darkness does not interrupt them. It wraps around their conversations like a blanket. The forest becomes not a place of isolated beings, but a woven whole, a single breathing system with many minds, many hearts, and one shared rhythm. When you sit beneath a tree and place your hand on the ground, you may not feel the threads, but they are there. Just beneath your palm, the mycelium moves. It brushes against roots. It carries the scent of decay and the memory of rain. It remembers fire, flood, and frost. It has witnessed centuries pass. It connects trees that have never touched above the ground. It remembers even when the trees forget. The wood wide web is not made by technology. It is not crafted by code. It grows, it evolves, it adapts. It is the forest's own invention, a system of intelligence without eyes, a method of cooperation without speech. And though you cannot see it, you walk on it, breathe because of it, and rest within its care. The fungi do not ask for praise. They do not ask for notice. They work in shadow, in quiet, in depth. As you lie back and close your eyes, the soil beneath you softens. You imagine the threads, pale and branching, moving in the dark. You imagine a signal, slow and small, traveling from one root to another. A question, a response, a gift. You are not outside of this. You are part of it. You breathe in rhythm with a forest held together by something older than speech. And as your breath deepens, the forest holds you in silence, in stillness, in thread, death. In the forest does not come with screams. It does not collapse with drama or echo with endings. It arrives slowly, like a shadow drifting over bark. Trees do not fall into death. They enter it with time, quietly, gradually, as if vanishing into the air they once made. The process begins long before a trunk splits or a limb breaks. It begins deep within, in the cells, in the veins of water and sugar that once carried sunlight into form. Dying for a tree is not a single event. It is a surrender made in steps. The forest does not mourn with sound. It understands the rhythm of decay. Sometimes death begins in the roots. Fungal infection, drought, damage underground, and the tree begins to loosen its hold. Water does not rise as it once did. Leaves thin. Growth slows. Energy is withdrawn from the outer edges first. The tips of branches fade. Then the inner canopy dulls. Slowly, the tree draws inward. It stops reaching. It begins letting go. Not in despair, but in rhythm. There is no panic. The tree knows the pattern. It has seen it in others. Other times, death comes from above. Lightning, storm, insects, disease. A crown may rot. A trunk may crack. The damage may be sudden or spread over years. Even then, the tree resists, fully dying. It reroots. It closes wounds. It compartmentalizes damage. Trees do not give in easily. They divide their tissues into living and dying zones. One part feeds while another retreats. This is not survival at all costs. It is survival with dignity. A tree will live as long as there is a single branch that can leaf, a single root that can draw water. It holds on in fragments. It lets go in layers. When death becomes certain, the tree shifts. It stops producing leaves. It stops sending energy upward. Sugars are stored instead of shared. The flow of sap becomes sluggish. The signals to grow, to flower, to extend all go quiet. The tree does not announce this moment. It simply stops responding. Its form remains, but its motion ceases. The outside stays rough and tall. Inside, the silence deepens, but death is not disappearance. In the forest, a dying tree becomes something new. Its bark may crack and peel, its branches may fall, but it does not vanish. It begins to open to others. Woodpeckers drill nests. Moss softens the trunk. Beetles arrive. Fungi creep into the grain. The decay is not destruction. It is hospitality. The tree becomes a home. Even in death, trees continue to nourish the forest. Their roots hold soil in place for years. Their fallen limbs become bridges for small creatures. Their trunks store carbon, slowly releasing it back. Their presence alters wind, light, humidity. A standing dead tree is called a snag, and a snag is a gift. It hums with life. Owls nest in its hollows. Insects thrive in its cracks. Salamanders hide in its shade. It is not just a remnant. It is a pillar of the ecosystem. Some trees die standing. Others fall slowly, one side at a time. Some lean for seasons, held up by neighbors before finally collapsing. When they fall, they do not break the forest. They make way. The gap they leave brings sunlight to the floor. New growth begins. Seeds that waited for years find their moment. A fallen trunk becomes a nurse. Log, rich with moisture and minerals. New trees sprout along its back. Life climbs from the body of the dead. The line between decay and birth dissolves. Inside the wood, changes are constant. Microbes arrive, breaking down complex compounds. Mycelium blooms. Cell walls soften. Over time, the hard tree becomes soft soil. What once stood for centuries returns to ground. But it does not do this quickly. Some trees take decades to fully return. In that time, they continue to serve. Every stage of decay is another version of usefulness. The tree gives until it is gone. Some trees seem to die and then change their minds. A stump may sprout leaves. A root may send up a new shoot. In forests where mother trees remain, their networks may keep a cut tree alive underground. Carbon still flows. Signals still move. The tree is no longer tall, but it is not gone. It waits in shadow. It lingers in the web that you may walk through. A forest and see nothing but trunks and leaves, but you are surrounded by memory. Every fallen branch, every rotting log, every hollowed stump is a story of transition. Death is not absence here. It is process. It is return. The forest does not avoid death. It uses it. It relies on it. It lets it unfold. Even fire, which seems so final, often becomes renewal. Some trees carry seeds that only open with heat. Others regrow from roots protected deep below. Ash returns nutrients to soil. Charcoal changes pH. In time, green returns. Not in spite of fire, but because of it. Destruction is not the opposite of growth. It is its partner. The forest knows this. The trees accept it. Dying trees also offer knowledge. Scientists read their rings, study their chemistry, listen to their echoes. A tree's final years speak volumes about drought, pollution, climate. The way it dies tells of the world it lived in. Even in silence, the tree teaches. Even in death, it records. You sit beside a tree and wonder if it is alive. Its bark is dull. Its limbs are bare. But look closer. Are there signs of beetles or mushrooms? Are birds nesting in its hollows? Is moss creeping upward? Then the tree is still part of the forest. Its role has changed, not ended. It no longer grows, but it hosts, shelters, feeds, informs. Its silence is not empty. It is full of meaning, of meaning. When you lie back and look up at a canopy made by hundreds of lives and deaths, you begin to understand. The forest is not made of survival alone. It is made of release, of surrender, of turning into something else. Every living thing here owes itself to something that has died. You breathe because of roots buried in rot. You walk on leaves returned to soil. You sleep under branches that once grew from a fallen trunk. The forest does not grieve as you do. It does not fear endings. It carries death with calm. It honors the fallen by using them, by making space, by beginning again. And in this, it offers you a lesson, that your end may not be the end, that stillness may not be loss, that what fades may also feed. As you close your eyes, the quiet deepens. Around you, some trees grow. Others rest, others fall without noise. And below it all, decay turns back to life. The forest continues, not despite death, but through it. Forests remember, not with minds, not with written records, but with bodies, chemistry, silence, and change. Memory lives in the rings of trees, in the layers of soil, in the shape of roots, and the angle of trunks. It lingers in the scent of sap, in the tilt of a branch that once leaned for light. A forest does not forget what has passed. It carries the past quietly beneath its green breath, beneath your feet, beneath the sound of birdsong and wind. You walk among memories shaped by fire, by flood, by time, by touch. The memory of forests is not made of thoughts. It is made of presence. Each tree holds a record of its years. Look at the rings beneath the bark. Wide rings mean years of light and rain. Narrow rings speak of drought or shade. Scars from fire leave black marks. Insect invasions change the spacing. Sudden frost bends the grain. These are not just patterns. They are the forest's own language of time. A felled trunk can tell the story of decades, of struggle and recovery, of abundance and loss. The tree remembers without intention. Its body holds what it lived. The soil remembers too. Layers built slowly over centuries, each one a trace of fallen leaves, of footsteps, of roots that once reached. In ancient forests, the soil is thick and dark, full of voices no longer spoken. It holds the chemical traces of trees long gone, the bones of animals that fed and fell, the ash of fires long extinguished. The memory of soil is not visible. It is felt in its richness, in its silence, in the way it feeds life without speaking. Even roots carry memory. When a tree falls and its roots decay, the next generation often grows in the same pattern. Their roots echo the shape of what came. before mycorrhizal networks that linked old trees remain in the earth, waiting to connect again. These fungal threads remember paths, remember connections, remember the directions in which help once flowed. A seedling planted in old soil inherits more than nutrients. It inherits the forest's invisible blueprint. The memory of forests is also stored in pattern and rhythm. The way light moves across the canopy each season. The cycle of flowering and fruiting, the migration of animals, the rise and fall of leaf litter. These are not random. They repeat like verses in a long poem. When a pattern is disrupted by drought or disease or human hand, the forest does not erase it. It adjusts, but remembers. It holds the scar gently, folds it into the next verse. The new rhythm carries the old one inside. Some trees live long enough to witness great changes. The bristlecone pines of North America have lived for thousands of years. They have seen climates shift, glaciers retreat, generations of animals come and go. Their trunks twist slowly, their wood grows dense. They keep their needles for decades. Every inch of their body is a slow recording of the world's changes. They speak only through growth, but they remember more than most cities. You cannot ask them what they know, but you can feel it if you listen. Even in forests that have been logged or burned or cut into roads, memory does not disappear completely. It lingers in the remaining stumps, in the weeds that regrow, in the birds that return to familiar calls. It lingers in the way the wind moves through the new trees. The memory may be fractured, but it is not gone. The land remembers what it once held. The forest begins to rebuild itself by following those old paths. Forests also remember through relationships. A tree that grew with another learns its rhythms, matches its cycles, responds to its signals. When one tree dies, the other notices. The loss travels underground. Nutrient flows change. Fungal links shift. The absence becomes a part of the living structure. The surviving tree may alter its own behavior, growing more slowly, flowering less, redirecting its energy. This is not grief, but it is awareness. A kind of memory shaped by presence and absence. Memory shows up in the forest's resistance. A tree that once survived a pest may grow children with natural defenses. A grove that lived through fire may germinate faster when the heat comes again. A forest that suffered drought may evolve deeper roots. These are not choices, they are slow echoes. Memory is passed not only through roots and rings, but through genes, through instinct, through quiet trial. The forest learns, not with thoughts, but with time. You walk through a quiet grove and feel that something is different. The air feels heavier, the branches sparser, the moss thicker. This feeling is not your imagination. It is memory made into space. A disease may have passed here long ago. A fire may have burned in a dry summer. A herd may have trampled through in migration. The forest adjusted, but it did not forget. It grew around the event. It remembered by changing shape. Human memory fades with time. We mark years on calendars. We tell stories. We write books. But forests remember by growing. Their memory is not a thing to be told. It is something to be lived. To be felt in shade and silence. To be read in bark and root and decay. To be breathed in the scent of pine after rain. Forests also hold the memory of those who walked before you. Footpaths may be gone, but deer trails remain. A stone out of place may mark where someone once sat. A ring of wildflowers may bloom where a fire pit once glowed. You are never alone in a forest. You walk with everything that has come before. This kind of memory offers comfort. It reminds you that nothing is ever truly gone, that even the quietest moment leaves a trace. That presence lingers long after movement stops. The forest teaches that memory is not about holding tightly, it is about folding gently, letting what was become part of what is. You sit beneath a tree and close your eyes. The wind touches your skin. You breathe slowly. You feel the memory around you, not as images or words, but as warmth, as stillness, as the sense that something more is here than what you can name. You feel it in the hush, in the patience, in the way the tree leans slightly toward the sun. As night falls and the forest darkens, memory deepens. Sounds soften, air cools, light fades into shadow, but the memory stays. It hums beneath the surface. In the rings, in the soil, in the space between roots, you drift into sleep, held by what the forest remembers, and what it is willing to keep. For you, the journey is quiet now. The leaves have said all they needed to say. The roots have stretched their stories into the dark, and the wind has paused to listen. You have walked through shadow and light, through scent and silence, through memory and moment. You have followed the hidden pulse of the trees, felt the way they speak without sound and sleep without fear. Now, let the forest hold what you cannot carry. Let the weight of thought sink gently into the soil. The night is not an ending. It is a hush, a breath drawn slowly, a space for stillness. Whatever you brought with you, let it rest beneath the branches. The trees will remember it for you. Close your eyes, the forest will still be here, breathing, listening, waiting. Good night, and may the language of trees follow you into sleep.